All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, life is so mental. There's a reason why if you play your father or your older brother in a one-on-one basketball game, that it takes you probably 2 or 3 years more than it should take you to beat them. It's because you have to get past that mental hurdle. When Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls were able to finally defeat the Detroit Pistons, or even when Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons were finally able to defeat Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics, the last hurdle that they had to get past was the mental hurdle, because physically they and their teams were capable of defeating the Celtics and the Pistons respectively the year before they finally did. That's why they both lost 7-game series the year before they finally were able to overcome that quote-unquote bully of the Eastern Conference. But it takes a lead player, an alpha on your squad, who truly can instill belief in his team. That's the difference between a champion and a contender. And nothing against Damian Lillard, but a lot of his actions this past offseason have shown me that he's ready to just go through his career, make a lot of money, and talk a good game, put up good stats. He knows that there are certain players that he'll be able to overcome or defeat, but there are going to be other players that he's just not going to defeat. Why do I say that? Because he recently made an appearance on the Joe Budden podcast in which he was asked, who's the best player in the NBA? And he was supposed to say me. I would have had no problem with him saying that if you're going to answer in any way, shape, or form. But he said LeBron James. Why would you say LeBron? If you were going to name another player other than yourself, then you say Kawhi Leonard or someone more recent who has shown that they can dominate the regular season and lead a deep run into the playoffs. I would have accepted a James Harden or even a Giannis Antetokounmpo or Kevin Durant, who as of right now is on ice, rather than a LeBron James, who for all intents and purposes, we don't know how he's going to look coming into this season. And if you're a Dame Lillard and you're looking to win your first NBA championship, why already grant the mental edge to LeBron James? Now, me personally, when I'm making my evaluations of the best players in the NBA, I've always stated that LeBron is one of the top 4 players in the league because there were only 4 superstars. There are only 4 superstars in the league. But one of them is down, that being KD. I was ready to hand over the mantle to KD in the midst of last season's playoffs, talking about the 2019 playoffs. But he went down. So Kawhi Leonard is the person who emerged from that scrum with the championship, so he has the crown. As of right now, Kawhi Leonard should be considered the best player in the NBA. He's extremely proficient on offense and defense. But Dame is not the first guy who has come out and admitted that he's intimidated by LeBron James, because Giannis recently did it a few months ago. He said it's much easier to believe that we can navigate through the Eastern Conference without LeBron James there. So many of these players are not ready to throw off the mental shackles of the dominance of LeBron James, and that's why some of them are never going to win championships. One of them being Dame Lillard. I just don't see it. I could be wrong. I wouldn't mind being wrong. But when you make a statement like that, and you're 29 years old, going on 30 years old, however old Dame is, that tells me that if you match up with the Lakers in the playoffs, LeBron knows he has the mental edge. And that's everything. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Joined the Joe Budden podcast and said he feels LeBron James is the best player in the NBA. Nick, do you agree with Dame?
No.
Okay. Why?
I'm waiting for my man Dave McMenamin to come running out of the rafters here.
Yes, Dave McMenamin is one of LeBron's paid agents amongst the NBA cognoscenti.
Is that McMenamin's music we hear? He's the best. Where is he? Oh, yeah.
But no, LeBron is an incredible player, one of the best we've ever seen. In this moment in time, in 2019, going into this year, he's not the best player.
Who is?
For me, when he's healthy, it's Kawhi.
Agreed.
The difference between Kawhi and LeBron and Kawhi and almost everybody else is Kawhi defensively is on another level.
Absolutely. When you have a player like a Kawhi Leonard who's going to give you 27 points per game and shoot in the area of 49 to 50% from the field, and not even counting the fact that he's going to be a top 3 to 5 defensive force in the NBA, you have to put him number 1.
LeBron, when he wanted to, and still when he wants to play defense, he can be one of the very best defenders in the league.
Yeah, for one possession. But LeBron cannot play top-level defense back-to-back possessions or consecutive possessions.
LeBron on a nightly basis, so he don't want to play defense anymore. He can still dominate offensively.
It's going to be interesting to see if LeBron James has a glaring drop-off from last year to this year.
That high level defensively that we saw in Cleveland and Miami, it wasn't there last year.
Right.
And I don't know consistently knowing what he has to give up on
the high level of defense that we used to expect from LeBron James has not been in existence for the last 5 years. He gave up playing defense after he lost the Defensive Player of the Year award to Marc Gasol back in 2013.
Sometimes, if it can be there every night anymore.
Well, I'm going to push back on you a little bit, and I think you're right.
And Dave right now is
No.
That's who's talking.
No.
Yeah, this guy George Sedano, he's another LeBron James fanboy.
You're right about defense. Basically, Windhorst and McMiniman and I have all talked about this. Since about 2014, defense has been optional until about like January, February, March. Right? Like I get that part of it. But offensively, here's the difference. What LeBron does to create for others is on a completely different stratosphere than what Kawhi does.
That's because LeBron James plays in the LeBron James system. Is LeBron a better passer than Kawhi Leonard? No doubt about it. But if we're just going to look at assists, we also have to understand that LeBron James plays in a system that allows him to accumulate stats and also demands that he utilizes his overall passing skills.
Now, you're absolutely 100% correct on defense. As far as the scoring is concerned, I still think LeBron's a more creative scorer, though Kawhi gets the job done.
Did this dude just say that LeBron James is a more creative scorer than Kawhi Leonard? Kawhi Leonard has the mid-range shot. He has a three-point shot. He's a better free throw shooter. He's a better post-up offensive player than LeBron James. LeBron has gone to great lengths to improve his overall offensive skill set. I've said this in previous videos. He's played the best offense in regards to the diversity of his offensive attack that he's ever played in the last 3 or 4 years. Especially, I would say, his last 3 years in Cleveland. He certainly raised his offensive proficiency and his understanding of how to score in a myriad of ways to a far higher level. But he's still, for the most part, just a face-up player. He had about 1.5 years in Miami where he tried to implement the post-up moves that he learned from Hakeem Olajuwon, but they were just too tedious for him. He likes to face up because LeBron James fancies himself as a point guard a la Kyrie Irving, someone who likes to score and go in between the legs 5,000 times. And I put point guard in quotes. But just to get back to the point, to say that LeBron James scores in a more extensive way or in a more diversified way than Kawhi Leonard, that's ludicrous.
Does the ability to get other guys involved sway you even a little bit as far as the defense is concerned?
Not in this point in his career.
Okay.
Because the other problem is I don't buy the Lakers as hard as other people do right now.
I agree. I think the Lakers are going to be a 50 or 51 win team. They're going to have a lot of chemistry issues, especially around December. I don't think that people understand that they are an older team who, when you look at their roster on paper, you say, oh, Danny Green and Rajon Rondo and Avery Bradley. These are names that we recognize, but they were more prominent 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. Most of these guys are in their early 30s or approaching 30, and they're an old 29 because they're worn down. And we know that LeBron James is an old 35. No matter his genetic dominance over other players or whatever he might be using to assist him, hint, hint, at the end of the day, they're still nearing their end. That's why I state that the Lakers have a 1-year championship window. And I think there's going to come a point over the course of this next regular season where LeBron James is going to look at Anthony Davis and say, I need you to carry this team offensively. Can you do it? And Anthony's going to realize that he's pretty much in the same boat that he was in New Orleans. Because I think that LeBron is going to have a great offensive season, but he's going to start to feel his age. And defensively, a lot of the onus is going to be placed on Anthony Davis to not only guard his man, but provide help defense for many of their older guards as well as LeBron. What's going to happen when they go to Denver and they're getting ran out of the gym by that young team? What's going to happen when they go to Portland and they get ran out of the gym by a team like that with all that firepower? They're going to have to fight their way out of the Western Conference, and I'm not quite sure if they're going to have what it takes to do so because they're still missing a lot of shooting. I could see them getting shot out of a lot of games, man.
Enough pieces around him and AD to make it work at the level we're used to seeing LeBron win at. I just don't think the Lakers are going to get to that point this year. Maybe for the rest of LeBron's career, going back to the finals year after year after year. But no, Kawhi, having watched him in that playoff run in Toronto and watched the last couple of years when he's been healthy on the floor, your point is valid, George. He doesn't create as well for everybody else, but he dominates.
And that's not his role. These are arguments that LeBron James fanboys concoct in order to keep LeBron as being considered the quote-unquote #1 best player in the league, because they know that he's fallen off precipitously on defense. So now it's, well, LeBron's a better passer, or LeBron creates more for his teammates. That's his role. It's not Kawhi Leonard's role. Kawhi Leonard plays in the Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant style of play on both offense and defense. He's not the player that Michael Jordan was. He's not as flashy as Kobe was, even though he's far more proficient on both offense and defense. But that's how he plays. And you don't evaluate Michael Jordan or Kobe on their assist numbers, because during their time period or during their tenure in the league, they were expected to shoot, hence the term shooting guard.
He is a dominator.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely is. But I would put that LeBron seems to have earned this emeritus status, right? Like, he is just the best player emeritus. And until he's out of the league, I think it's kind of like a Michael Jordan situation. You're not.
No, not quite. And you're speaking like someone who did not grow up during the Michael Jordan era. Michael Jordan was never considered the best player in the NBA via emeritus or by emeritus, meaning someone who has just earned this dignified stature and they're always going to be considered in that light until they're gone. No, Michael Jordan earned his place in the NBA. How he was evaluated was always in the moment. The proof of that is that after he retired the first time and came back into the NBA, he was no longer considered the best player in the league. Hakeem Olajuwon was. Jordan had to earn those stripes back. When he came back in '95 and the Bulls got knocked out of the playoffs, he wasn't considered the best player in the league. Hakeem was. The next year, the Bulls won 72 games and won the championship. And Michael Jordan won the regular season MVP, the All-Star Game MVP, and the Finals MVP. So that's how he got that title back. When he came back with the Wizards, Jordan was not considered the best player in the NBA. So there was no emeritus status granted to Michael Jordan, like is being done with LeBron James.
To say this player, the vast majority of people will say this player is better than LeBron. And I think that was the right thing for Damian Lillard to do. It's almost like an honorary thing. He's past his prime. That's absolutely true.
Really?
Yes.
Absolutely, it's true. Look at George Sedano. How could you be that shocked? How could you be that incredulous for someone to say that? It's obvious that LeBron James is past his prime. As a matter of fact, he's at the beginning of leaving his prime. I would say that the last couple of years, I would say maybe his last 2 years in Cleveland, heading into LA, he was at the very end of his prime. This season is going to signify LeBron James embarking in his post-prime tenure, which is not necessarily going to be a bad thing. He'll still probably be a great player, very impactful, average somewhere around 25 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. But the explosion is not quite going to be there like it's been in years past. And I'm sure that many people will deny that. But it'll be noticeable, in my view, for those of us who pay close attention.
So, you don't think he's
No, I still think he's got this year and next year, and 538 backs me up on this.
Take off your mask.
No.
It's going to be
If you look at his wins above, his projected wins above replacement, he's still got about a 9 wins above replacement, which I believe still might be the highest in the league this year and maybe even next season.
But this is the problem.
I would guess, and I might be wrong about this, that the other players in that wins above replacement stat are Russell Westbrook and James Harden, because they all play in that same dominate the basketball, dominate the flow of everything on offense style. I could be wrong about that, though. Giannis's name might pop up there because he's great on both offense and defense. But if I had to take a gander at it, I would say that if we were to look at that stat of wins above replacement that George Sedano just quoted, it's probably LeBron, Russell Westbrook, James Harden.
Problem speaks to Malika's point. LeBron has done so much for so long and been so...
Steph Curry could be up there too because his proficiency numbers are historic. So who knows what it says. But I think that when we try to evaluate players based on metrics like wins above replacement, especially in basketball, we have to consider their style of play. Wins above replacement is best for sports like baseball.
Unbelievable at what he's done. The people aren't willing to come off that step right now.
No, I get that. I get that part. He's not going to be declining.
Somebody already is. See, I already...
Well, George Sedano, if you acknowledge that he's going to be declining, Why would you be incredulous when they stated that he's past his prime? That's literally the definition of being past your prime, that your decline is starting. Or at least your precipitous decline is about to start.
He's already declining, and that's fine. That's what happened. That's what happened with age. Is where I'm on the let gravity do its thing train today, right? And I think that the conversation that we're having about Kawhi, I'd throw Giannis up there. I'd probably throw.
I wouldn't throw Giannis over him. Giannis can't hit a mid-range shot to save his life or hit a long jumper.
I'd also put Anthony Davis up there, but all of those players, I feel like are going.
Anthony Davis failed to me. I myself cannot include Anthony Davis in the best player in the NBA conversation because he quit on his former team. Players who would ever be considered the best player in the NBA, they have to make an impact on their franchise. And I don't think that he gave himself the chance to do that, and that's okay. Now, if we're going to talk about the top 5 or 6 most talented or most impactful, potentially impactful players in the NBA, Anthony Davis deserves consideration, because his proficiency numbers are going to be so high both offensively and defensively that he always has to be considered. He's a stat monster. But best players, that takes into account intangibles. And Anthony Davis is missing a lot of intangibles.
Until LeBron is out of the league, he has earned the emeritus greatest player.
Totally disagree. I don't think that any player has earned, quote unquote, the title of emeritus. When we look at the history of the NBA, no player has ever been considered the greatest by emeritus or just by reputation. You always have to earn it.
Title, and until he is gone, everyone else will be the greatest player since LeBron, the next player to be LeBron, the next da-da-da-da. I don't think that any player is going to be able to, just because of the tradition of it, and that's how fans are. It's like Michael Jordan, it's like Kobe. No one's willing to say, even when Kobe's limping off the court, I'm going to bet against him. It's just like LeBron.
Plenty of people bet against Kobe Bryant, so that's a lie. You're making up your own narrative.
And the Lakers, no one wanted to say last year until the very end, until it was inevitable that they wouldn't make the playoffs, that the Lakers were out, because no one
bullshit
to bet against LeBron. It's the same in terms of best player. No one's going to say he's the best until he's not the best until he's hung it up and walked out the door.
Clearly, you guys are. He put on Instagram hashtag.
She let out some deep exhale, like her diatribe was insightful in some way.
Washed King, which I thought was ridiculous, because I'm sitting here saying, who in the hell is actually saying that about him? Maybe he's talking about you two.
But that's the problem.
He's not
just joking. Clearly, we're
also, maybe he's just saying he's clean. Like, what?
He couldn't
just took a shower.
Yes, but this speaks to what Lillard was talking about here, guys. If you're Damian Lillard, not only have you respected LeBron and watched him your whole life,
but
you're sitting there and you're saying, you know he can still turn it on. It's not like LeBron can't go dominate a game or dominate potentially a playoff series if the Lakers get back there this year after missing it.
Right, but LeBron James is 35 years old. Dame Lillard, if he's not 30 years old yet, is pushing 30. His mindset has to be conquer. His mindset has to be championship. He should be saying to himself, I'm the best player in the NBA right now. The Golden State Warriors, they've been handicapped by the loss of Kevin Durant and the loss of Klay Thompson. The LA Lakers, we don't know who they're going to be. As a team, the Portland Trail Blazers made it to the Western Conference Finals last year. Why are you so ready to give all this credit to a 35-year-old LeBron James coming off of an injury? It makes no sense whatsoever, at least from a competitor's standpoint.
The point is that they don't want LeBron to turn it on against them. If you tell me if Damian Lillard was like, nah, LeBron, he's not the same guy. Every time the Lakers play the Blazers, he's going to get up.
Let's do it this way.
That's downright disrespectful. That's the thing. And Damian Lillard he might be one of the most respectful dudes in the league.
Right, well, that's why I know that Dame Lillard is never going to win a championship. And once again, I may be wrong about that. But when you make those type of admissions or those concessions, that tells me that you're not ready for the big moment.
One of the most honest.
Yeah. He is very honest.
He sees his elder. Yeah. He sees the guy who came before him. He sees the guy who does so much for the league. Of course he's going to say that, and he absolutely should. Very well knowing that we can do this exact thing. Parse out, okay, is he in the best in this sector? Is he in the best in that sector? No, he's not. But I don't.
Circa 2002, if you would have asked Kobe Bryant if Michael Jordan was still the best player in the NBA, he would have said hell no. I promise you that. Circa 2013 or 2012, if you were to have asked LeBron James, is Kobe Bryant or Tim Duncan the best player in the NBA, he would have said hell no. You have to see it before you can be it. When you're giving someone else the title that you're searching for, you're never going to be able to attain that title, especially if you're talking about your own era. Now, if we're having hypothetical conversations, you know that there are certain benchmarks that you have to reach. So if you're playing in this era and you're trying to compare yourself to someone who played 30 or 40 years ago, you know that there are certain benchmarks that you have to reach when it comes to winning and personal accolades before you can say, I'm greater than that person.
Wrong to say that.
So let me ask you guys this. I'll put you on the spot. You ready?
No.
Come on, now, let's go.
Healthy LeBron, healthy Anthony Davis. What's a better combination? Who's a better, like,
George, it doesn't matter who's the 1, 2. What about 3, 4, 5?
Thank you, sir.
Hey, who's better? Who's better? If LeBron is healthy come May or April, mid-April, who's better player than him at that point? Who do you trust more?
Kawhi.
You trust him more?
Right now, in this, if Kawhi is healthy, Kawhi Leonard. Right now, LeBron just is not.
LeBron James fans are so annoying. They're not quite as toxic as Kobe Bryant fans, but they're just so damn stupid.
What he once was. He's still incredible,
right?
But he's not the same as he was a couple years ago. I think
the way they speak, you would think that LeBron was 7-2 in the finals. Who do you trust more? I trust whoever has the best system, the best team, the best coach, and the best player on that team willing to immerse himself in that system. LeBron James was only forced to immerse himself in the system for those 4 years in Miami, and we saw what happened.
It's starting to go, and his body isn't at the same level because Father Time is undefeated.
I may have given you, Kawhi is in the discussion. I think that maybe Durant, if he's healthy, but we don't know what he's going to look like.
And see, this is the whole thing for me, having watched Kevin on a daily basis last year. If it were who's the best player right now and Kevin hadn't blown out his Achilles, I'm taking Kevin Durant. I think he is the very best player when he's healthy, but this is the other thing.
He was certainly on his way to assuming that mantle, no doubt about it.
Who's the best defensive player? Kawhi. Who's the best offensive player? To me, it's Steph Curry. LeBron's still very good on both sides, but he is not the...
LeBron is not very good on both sides. He's very good to great offensively. On defense, he's borderline terrible.
Very best player in the league anymore.
I smell another Instagram post coming. That's all I'm saying. All right, here.
Well, LeBron has been great at that, especially during this offseason. He's talking a whole lot of junk, and we'll see if he's able to back it up next year. Or this oncoming season, I should say. But anyway, peace.